Again, my name is Matt. I work with HMS. Everybody should be aware that HMS is the Employee Assistance Program. We're here to basically talk about change management. Let me ask you something. Why am I here? See, it works every time. You stare at someone long enough, they respond to you. Okay? To facilitate change. That's not my job. That's your job. Right?
You're going to teach it.
I'm going to teach it. Do you know how? I mean, aren't we all pretty good at acclimating to change?
No, we don't know.
No. You know who likes change?
Nobody.
No. There's a very specific group of people who do like change. You do?
I do.
Right. The only other one besides her are babies. Babies are the only ones, no, I'm serious, who like change. All right? The rest of us are kind of inherently against it. But change is always happening. What I'm trying to do here is generally just kind of normalize this whole process. Asking me a question is not going to slow me down. We will still finish on time. Okay, so if you have any questions regarding the material, please let me know. Okay? All right, let's get started. All right. Anybody know the mission statement of the hospital or the health system? No, that's the moniker.
No.
What's the mission statement?
Deliver quality care.
Okay. Kind of the drive of why everybody. Okay. All right. What I would strongly recommend, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but I'm a huge believer in mission statements. If you don't have an understanding or know what the mission statement of the hospital and the health system is, how can you possibly fulfill it? True? If you don't know what it is, I mean, we all know kind of why it's here, but do we know why we're in business and how we're going to go about affecting a better lifestyle, a better patient care, and doing your jobs better? We have to really have an understanding of what the mission statement is. So what I'm asking you all to do very strongly is get a copy of that mission statement, read it over, and have an understanding. Okay? What department are you with?
Case management.
Case management. What are you with?
Case management.
How many here are in case management? Okay? So what are the other departments?
Patient management.
Patient access.
Medical records.
Medical records. That's it?
Finance.
Finance. You have a mission statement. What's the mission statement of finance?
Cash.
No, that's the goal. What's the mission statement? Why do you exist?
Cash.
Attain and preserve cash.
Provide for all losses.
Okay?
Anticipate no gains.
Okay? See what I mean? Everybody has a mission statement, and again, I don't want to press this really, really hard, but you have to have an understanding of what the mission statement is of the hospital. Do each of your departments have a mission statement? Is there a mission statement in case management?
Yes.
What is it?
I don't know, but I know it's there. I've seen it.
Okay, but you don't.
It's in the front of the policy manual.
Okay, so you know it's there, but you've never read it.
I did, but.
All right, folks, very seriously, you really should take a look at what the mission statement is of the hospital and what you have for your own department. A mission statement defines why an organization exists. A mission statement defines why a department exists. I know you all know it, but what's the mission? What are the attainable goals behind it? And have for yourself a mission statement personally and professionally. How many people in the room are a parent? Great. Do you have a mission statement? Go like this. No, you absolutely do, and I guarantee I could ask you, in fact, I'm going to. What's your mission statement as a parent?
Yeah, get them out of the house.
Okay. I'll buy it. Get them out of the house.
They're
That's
out,
a goal.
so
That's not a mission
it's
statement.
To be a good parent, teach values.
Okay. Keep going.
To provide an environment in which the children could grow and obtain the values that you believe are important, and then move on and go out and make their place in society.
Make sense?
Yeah.
We can do it. We have it. You have no idea the value behind it and how much better it is when we have an understanding of that, of accepting the changes that occur in our personal and professional lives. Can you stop the changes that are occurring here? No. Can we welcome them? Oh, everybody's nodding and bobbing. We'll see. Okay? So again, I mean, I'll have this presentation is available. Maura has it. She can email it to you. But I really do believe strongly in a vision. If I could speak, what would I say? Vision, mission, values. Okay? And strategies about going to get that done. Okay? I made that up. But that's probably very close to what the mission statement, the vision statement is at Chester County Hospital. We have eye care, and then again, what your mission statement is. So you might want to email Maura and ask her to send you this presentation. You have no idea the value of what it can happen, okay? All right. Mission statement basically defines why we're in business, why we're a parent, why we choose to do what we do, okay? If I asked you to describe what change means to you, what does it mean to you? Everybody has a different way of looking at it. Through every changing process, there is a growth, okay?
Opportunity.
Opportunity. So you guys are describing this in a very positive way. Keep going.
Embracing.
Yeah? Do you embrace change? Right, because most people really do avoid it at all costs. We are creatures of habit, and we like things the way they've always been. And who's worked here in excess of 10 or 15 years? Right, the majority of people in the room. Don't we always say, well, that's not the way we used to do it, I don't understand why these changes are occurring? Right, like I said, most people are very averse to change. How long have you worked here? Yeah. 8 years. No, you young lady right here.
10.
10. Do you come to work and go home from work the same way every day? Really? You alter your route. How come?
Depending where I have to go.
Okay, let's say you just have to go home.
No, I honestly take a different route.
Good for you. I think go ahead, I'm watching your face. Do you come to work and go home from work the same way every day? As most people do, because we are creatures of habit. Okay? Habits allow us to develop these little instincts where we don't really have to put a lot of our mind into it. That's why people are really averse to change, because it changes our way of thinking. We may not have all the information of why that's occurring. Okay? So again, we really want to try to embrace change. But is change an emotional experience for you? Yeah, it very well should be. And a lot of people put an emotion to something that really doesn't need to be there. We judge those behaviors. Does anybody see change as threatening? Yeah, I think the majority of people do. And we start to see it as being very negative. And that's a natural occurrence. Okay, that's the way most human beings do adapt to change. I mean, again, how many of us are parents? Right, aren't kids great? Right, weren't you really worried when you were first starting out with no manual, no video, and no one really to help you out? It is, it's threatening. It threatens your lifestyle. It threatens the relationship you've had with your spouse. Right? Or was that just me? Okay? No, it does, but it's a question of way you perceive it. So what I'm asking you to do is don't put judgments on the words we talk about as change. Change is a very normal process. But if we start thinking about it as threatening, then we start to have an emotional component to it. And those emotions affect our behavior and the way that we view things, the decisions we make, and the way that we treat other people. Or is that just me? Right? It's true. We all do it. We can change the threatening part of it into being proactive. I think that's really what the hospital is trying to do. Right? Not that there was anything wrong in the past, but in an effort to kind of compete in today's world, right? I mean, what's your competition in this area? Within a 20-mile radius, what's the competition in this area? Go ahead and back. Yeah, I watched you just immediately start to go through the list. Right? So, what's that comprised?
Pardon me?
What does that comprise? Paoli.
Paoli, Riddle, Bryn Mawr, Plankenall, Bryn Mawr Rehab. Well, not really Bryn Mawr Rehab.
Kind of.
Yeah, kind of.
That's pretty serious, right? Brandywine. Okay? Right. There's 8. Okay? So we have to adapt to that change. And again, I see it as hopefully being more proactive. And sometimes you have to really have to force yourself to think this way. Of course we see it as a threat. We see it as a threat to the way we did things. We see it as a threat to our existence. But start changing that around and thinking differently. Have you ever noticed one thing, and this is a quick sidebar, which I have a tendency to do. If someone repeats something that's false, have you ever noticed that sooner or later it gets legs and becomes true? Have you ever noticed that? Same thing happens the way we think about change. We start to see it as chronically negative. We never see the real positive effect from it. So the way we think changes the way that we behave. And again, the decisions we make and the way that we treat other people, even in the way we do our work. So what I'm asking you to do is, no matter how negative or no matter how difficult this might happen, really try to focus on what that change is going to mean in the near and future of here and of you, right? And see it as a more positive attribute. Another thing, before I forget, do we have people who chronically think negative here?
You mean within this room or as a hospital as a whole?
The hospital as the whole and the people that you work with and interact with every day.
Yes.
right? Those little negative Nancy's. Have you ever noticed that they love to drag people around in their dirty little wake? Okay? Avoid these people if you can. If you can't, try to change their line of thinking. And a lot of the time, people who are really in a very negative state really don't understand the impact that that has on you personally and other people. Just let them know. You know what I mean? Yeah, go ahead, sit with me at lunch, but here's what we're not going to talk about. No, I'm serious. Lay out a ground rule. And again, my style happens to be very direct. It may not be yours. Use whatever works for you. But don't hang around people who are chronically negative. These are people who are going to be detrimental to accepting the change and moving forward. And is there any stopping this train? No, I'm serious.
No.
Is there? No, there's not. Okay? So what are your choices?
Get on board.
Get on board. Okay? And see what we can do to help move this forward. How is it going to benefit you? Is the way you want to think about it. So it's not threatening. It can really be more proactive. We really take a look at it and kind of pull ourselves away from the situation and really take a look at it objectively. Okay? There is definitely, with any change, regardless if you believe in evolution or not, I don't want feedback on my evals talking about evolution. Okay? But just in terms of an organic way in an organization works, they do adapt or die. And we've seen that all over the place in hospital settings, in manufacturing, etc. So our goal is basically to evolve, and that takes time for certain people to adapt to. But you can and you will evolve from it. Let me ask you this. What positive events are occurring in the hospital right now? Okay, is that a positive thing? Why is everybody losing their mind over it then? Is it inconvenient?
Yeah.
Maybe.
To some.
To some. How long is this going to last? Is it forever? No. So there's going to be an end to it. We can deal with, I'm sorry, ma'am?
So who's losing their mind over it?
A lot of people, because I've done this class a lot. A lot of people are very concerned, one, about the money being expended, what benefit it's going to be, the inconvenience of it. Right? But yet the majority of people in this room see this as something very positive. What other changes are coming or have you already experienced here?
New president.
We had new leadership.
Right, new leadership. I mean, that's got to send a wave through. Different mindset, different expectations. Okay, so again, we evolve, adapt, or die to it. What's the goal behind having a new president and the new kind of social order and the way things are moving forward? What's the goal behind that?
Maintaining itself in our environment, because if we don't, we'll be one of the hospitals closing. So
Right.
you have to move forward.
Do you see it generally as a benefit for you in terms of continued employment?
Yes.
No, I'm serious. I mean, you really got to look at this. And there's a lot of people who are really negative see those kind of events as very, very negative. There are very, very positive things occurring here. What about the implementation of the new IS system? So you think I don't see you, but I do. No, it's you. Do you guys have any concerns about the new IS system that's going into place? Pardon me? Pardon me?
What's the
Oh, I have concerns.
Yeah, learning.
Don't you guys have a new computer system coming in that's going to basically deal with...
They haven't been told about it yet.
Okay, well, you do.
You're
It's coming.
you're talking
All
about,
hospitals.
yeah, the Saurian financials. That's what you're talking about.
I am.
correct? Yes, well then, yeah, we know it's coming.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that a concern?
It's-
How come?
Because it's a lot to learn.
It's a lot to learn.
And it's going to change the way we do work.
Okay? And what's the positive attribute of that? Right. Isn't that a good thing? Okay, now, is it difficult? Is it going to be difficult to learn?
I think.
Maybe. Do you know that yet?
No.
Okay, some of you might, some of you don't. Okay? But can you do it?
Yes.
No, I'm not kidding. You really have to put your fist down and say, yeah, I can. I really can. Okay? It's a positive thing. Is it teaching somebody new skills? Right. So realize there's a lot of positive events, yet we only really have a tendency when change is going on to really focus on the negative because that's easy. But if I asked you all to think for yourself, in fact I am going to, but not going to voice it, what are 3 to 5 positive things going on right now or are going to happen in the future here that are going to have a direct positive impact on your employment and your life personally and professionally? Focus on positive events, because there are a lot, and what we fail to see are what those events are. because it's way too easy just to focus on the negative part. Okay? Right? Okay. All right. A lot of the time we react rather than see it as welcoming. A lot of people, obviously, like I said, these are very classic human traits. We have a tendency to be resistant rather than accepting of it. And I'm going to go through that in detail in a second. A lot of people are very fearful about it. I mean, you guys have had a reduction in force, correct?
Right.
That's got to send a shock wave through. And that is a frightening experience. And no one, especially now, likes to see a coworker or departments or anybody else lose employment. I mean, sometimes those are necessary decisions an organization has to make. It doesn't make it easy to accept. All right? And a lot of the time we have to welcome and what do we need to do to maintain our employment and our seat on the bus. You know what I mean? One of the greatest stress relievers you will ever have, and again, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but that's fine. Does anybody know the greatest stress reliever there is out there? And it's not Ativan, Xanax, or alcohol, or marijuana. Pardon me?
Laughter.
Humor is a great one. What else?
Exercise.
Exercise. Go ahead.
I'm gonna go spiritual. God.
That's fine. Whatever draws your drapes.
Nature.
Right? You know what it is? I'll tell you what it is. It's information. Information is the greatest stress reliever you can possibly have. Okay? So let's say I was recently diagnosed with diabetes. To me, yeah, that's a bag of downers. I don't know that much about it, even though my wife is a nurse. So the more information I find out about it, I may not like what I read, but at least I'm getting information so I can make better decisions regarding a recent medical diagnosis, what it means to me, and how I'm going to treat it going forward. Same thing happens organically in an organization, in a department, or in a person. Getting information. You may not like what you hear, you may not like what you read, but at least you have information so you can make better decisions. So go to people who can give you appropriate, correct information. And when those rumors start flying, okay, which they will, pin the person down. Where'd you hear it? Oh, I heard it from my cousin who works in the OR, from her friend in the ER, from the other person whose mom's a volunteer. No, do you know, I mean, I don't know if I could repeat that. That was pretty good, wasn't it? Okay? Pin that person down. All right? You need information from people who have it, that they know that it's correct, right? And information is going to be disseminated to help people adjust to the changes that are occurring here. Information is your greatest stress reliever you can possibly have, especially at a time right now. Okay? So go to those who actually have it. So instead of seeing it as fear, see it as an opportunity, okay? Obviously, there's going to be a lot of ambiguity. Communication is the #1 thing behind it. And I've talked to the hospital, as have others, regarding how to better communicate in short bursts information that is correct, timely, and appropriate. Okay? Because too much information causes what? Overload and analysis paralysis. You have no idea what, no, it is. It's analysis paralysis. You have no idea what to do with that. And you just stagnate. Okay? And obviously with any change, yes, there's going to be a loss. With regards to what that means to you, there will be a loss. But what are the future expectations? Very rarely is change a permanent thing. Change is constant, but the changes that occur are never really necessarily permanent. In some cases, obviously, that's the case. But in most, it's not. Obviously, there's a stress, okay? And hopefully that puts you into a stress into action. Are we okay so far? Moving at a decent pace? All right. Because I got to pick it up. All right. Anybody watch Deadwood? I don't want this to be lost on everyone. No one in the room has ever seen the TV series Deadwood? Okay, forget that one then. Okay? Our style determines how we handle it and make it work for us, our environment, our culture, and for the employees. So the way that you perceive and adapt to change is going to affect, as I mentioned, the decisions you make, emotionally how you're going to feel, and how you're going to progress moving forward, whether that be in a positive way or in a negative way. Okay? The only people who like change are babies. That's my quote. I will take full credit for it because it's absolutely true. And yes, my dad was a gynecologist, but we're not going to get into that right now. An OBGYN, okay? The one thing you have to really think about, and the one thing I want you to leave here with, is this. Regardless if it's personal or professional, change is constant. Okay? It's constant. Now, granted, you've been under the same leadership here for how long? How long was Perry here? One of the longest running CEOs of a president in any hospital system east of the Mississippi. Okay? So now that's changed. So it is constant, but a lot has changed over the years here, correct? Are we doing the same things we did even 5 years ago, 2 years ago? No, not at all. So realize it's a natural thing. It happens all the time. We just don't really take a look at it. It can be managed, but it's never really cured, and you don't want it to be. Do you?
No.
Right. So it's a management process, very simply. Okay. Change is either a challenge or a threat, and it really depends on your perception. But you notice how we put a lot of words like positive or negative? Don't put a judgment on something that doesn't need to be there. Okay? As a quick example, if I were to say to a guy, your first name, sir?
Steve.
Steve, you're assertive. You really are. I like your management style. What's that mean to you? Compliment. Positive, right? We judge it. Again, I'm sorry, your first name?
Cindy.
Cindy. Cindy, she's so assertive.
That's
That's
kind
not
of
kind of
negative.
negative. I feel so assertive.
I said the same thing to him.
How you say it.
No, I said it with the exact same inflection. You see how we put judgments on words and on actions? But again, it's our perception. Some people would perceive what I just said to her as calling her what? And you don't have to say the word. Is everybody pretty much where I'm at? No, do you see what I mean? So there's a stereotype in there that we have this preconceived notions that if you say to a woman she's assertive, we're actually giving her a backhanded compliment. Or is that just me? Is everybody following where I'm going with this? Don't put judgments on things that don't need it. Okay? It's not positive, it's negative, it's going to happen. How we react and adjust and evolve to it is going to affect the outcome, personally and professionally for you. Okay? Your belief paves the way to your ability to adapt. All right, let me go through this. Regardless if it's death, birth, and the death of your relationship with your spouse at that time, but again, is that me? No. Anything going through change, these are basically the cycles that you go through. Okay? Obviously, in the first stage, there's a sense of denial. This is natural. This happens with absolutely everybody. Okay? Then we go through a huge state of loss. What am I losing through this? Am I losing prestige? Is it possible I lose my job? Is it possible that I lose some stature? Whatever that might be, whatever that is personally to you. Then we go through the resistance stage. We're getting past denial. Now we're kind of accepting it, but now we're going to be resistive. Or as I like to say, in a lot of cases, certainly not all, people get a little passive aggressive about it. Not here though, right? Okay? And then change creates stress and anxiety and fear. That's where the passive aggressivity comes from. Okay, that's why people are passive aggressive, because they're fearful of it. Then we kind of reach, and don't take this as rock bottom, but we're kind of at the down part of what's perceived to be the real negative part of it. Then we start taking an uptick, and we realize there are people who adapt to this very, very quickly, and there are people who would take longer or even never to achieve it. Those are those negative Nancys that you want to stay away from, because they are deliberately trying to drag you around in a dirty little wake and bring you on board with their line of thinking. Does that improve morale? No. Productivity? No. Your general mood, attitude, or ability to work hard? Do you want to hang with them? No. Right. So what are you going to do? Avoid them or call them on that behavior. Okay? Now we're starting to get into the more what's perceived as positive, but we're getting more into the growth part of it. Okay? Now we're starting to explore the opportunities and seeing this as less of a threat and more of an opportunity for everybody. Is it going to be difficult? Sure it is. Are you not up to the challenge? Absolutely. Everybody in this room is, right? Because we have to. Okay? And employees need incentive and motivation. Let's be careful about incentive and motivation, though, real quick. And let me give you a very, very quick example about that. Anybody ever read the book Freakonomics? Oh, get it. I make no money off this, but it's a great book. What had happened was there was a statistician who started to apply statistics to general questions and to see what the real outcome is, because reality isn't always what it seems. There was a daycare center, all right, where parents started to come late to pick up their kids. So the daycare center, in an effort to offset the overtime they had to pay their staff, they started fining parents $10 for every 15 minutes that they were late. What do you think happened? Pardon me?
No, if they left.
They were on time.
Not only were the chronic late people continue to be late, more people started to be late. You think it's a disincentive, but what it does, it actually incentivizes those people to come late. Why? Because they were paying for it, and now they felt entitled to it. It's interesting the way incentives work and the way disincentives work. Okay? So we have to be careful about what those are. Quick little side story, isn't it? All right, we're moving on. All right, then we start getting into the acceptance part of it. And again, this is timeline. This might be very rapid. Your first name, miss? Say?
Sandra.
You might be very good at this. You adapt this. You probably went through this part very quickly and are looking forward to this part. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but generally that's likely a true statement, right?
No.
Okay, good. Well, you said, didn't she say to me earlier that she liked change? Go ahead. Blow the presenter out of the water on film. That's great. I appreciate that. As I said, a lot of people do go through this much more quickly than others, but you have to push yourself to get into more of the acceptance phase of it. Now we see the need and your role in that. There is a need for this hospital to adapt and change to the current environment, isn't there? Isn't it absolute necessity? Okay, so let's get there. How can we be a part of it? How can we help encourage that and help move that forward? Then we get into the action stage, which is the desired state, and now we're fully accepting of it and working toward that. And again, that's a personal thing. It's a professional thing. So think about, what are the positive things that are happening? Are we learning new skills that we might be able to adapt to and apply here or even in another job? Right? I mean, are you doing the same thing you did 5 years ago? No, there are skills that you've learned here that are adaptable to other areas of work or other places to work. Right? Again, just giving you one example of a positive thing that comes out of this stuff. All right. All stress is, and this is not a stress management workshop, but all stress is your ability to adapt to a change. That's all it is. Okay? That's it. I don't care if it's an immediate stress, like almost avoiding a car accident. You ever notice how you handle that very well, but then once you've avoided that car accident, you feel like you're going to throw up on the passenger seat? Right? That's your body reabsorbing all the chemicals, but also too, you adapted to that change, now it's time to move on, but you got to take a breather in between. All right? Stress accumulates in a rapidly changing environment, and there's no question about that. We are very, very good at adapting to very, very large changes. Okay? And 911 is the best example I can come up with. What happened an hour after 9/11? I know a million things did, but just in the context of what we're talking about, what are one of the very positive things that came after an hour after 9/11?
Everybody just sort of came together.
Everybody, nationally.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, as an employee assistance program, we got about 50 calls from California, Colorado, Washington, Florida, saying, what do you guys need from us to assist your clients in New York? Okay, that was virtually immediate. We are very good at adapting and dealing with huge changes. You know what we're not good at adapting to? The small little things that accumulate over time. And someone will say to me, oh man, that guy just snapped. No, he didn't just snap. Okay, what he had a hard time doing was dealing with the small incremental changes that were either noticeable or not. And then finally, we've all heard the expression, the straw that breaks the camel's back. That's a true statement. It's the smallest thing at the end of the day. Okay, so again, try to realize what those are and adapt to them as they come along. Okay, stress can be managed constructively is basically the point behind that. All right, and the way we view it affects our ability to adapt to that change. Okay, this gets a little flowery, but all change is, and I really want you to simplify things. Did you ever notice that we really kind of get really akimbo over something that we don't have a lot of information about? Let me put this to rest for you. All change is a process through which people, places, and things become different. That's all. True? That's as true as it gets. Put that up, paste it to your forehead, put it on your screensaver, do whatever you need to do. Simplify things. Get information for things is the greatest way to cope, and the greatest way to evolve, and the greatest way for you to put to work toward what those goals are. And obviously, change is a way of life. And I know I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but sometimes the simplest concepts are the most beneficial. They really are. Change is a way of life. I'm going to give you an idea of how to deal with stuff in a second. Okay. Major life changes. I want to just zip through this really quickly. We're all going to experience a few or all of these at some point. Right? Some more than others. Not one of these really has to be a negative thing. Yet a lot of people think, empty nest, it's negative. You'll adapt. Aren't some people, who's looking forward to being an empty nester? Right, how come?
More freedom.
More freedom, right? More money. Right?
About that.
Right, I get that. In this economy, I get that too, right? It's like having a 27-year-old returning from college as a sophomore. I know some of you were thinking that's not that funny. At least you see the shock on his face. He's like, holy cow, Matt, are you kidding? No, not kidding. Okay. But at least you have someone to mow the lawn. No, you see, I'm serious. There's a positive thing to that, and you don't have to pay them. Okay? A job transfer, even the loss of a job. You wouldn't believe how many people have come back after we've talked to them over the difficulty of acclimating to a new job and saying, you know what? I was stagnating at Chester County Hospital. And I'm just using this as an example. The best thing I could do after being there for 15 years was leave, use other skills, and contribute more than what I was there because I was bored, I was burned out, I wasn't doing anything. Okay? So again, these are all major life changes that we have. We're all going to have it, but we all have adapted to the majority of these already. Okay? We already discussed the changes that are occurring now. Obviously, the, what do you call it? The IS system is called what? Saurian, yeah, that's interesting. At my wife's hospital at Children's in Northeast, they just implemented a whole new IS system too. You know what I mean? But it's kind of where we're going with it. New leadership, the tower, what else? Competition, okay? What else is going on? I don't work here, you tell me. Do we have an increase in census, decrease in census? I mean, say? Increases
well, the census changes all the time, which is a stress in itself, because when it's high, it's when it's low, where'd they all go, you know?
Right. Right. It's like you know, you're thinking to yourself, wow, when it's really high, I don't know how I'm going to manage this work. When it's really low, that can't be a good thing either. Right? But we do. We can anticipate peaks and valleys. Okay? So, you take a look. Obviously, the economy, for a lot of us, personal, professional things, are we all doing more with less? Right. Is that likely to change?
No.
No. So how are we going to adapt to it? Are we going to BMC? Everybody know what BMC is? It's Wednesday. I'm feeling a little frisky. No? Bitch, moan, and complain? Okay, does anybody mind that? I don't mean to be direct and inappropriate. Yeah, you're right. That's the only thing she's writing down. BMC. Right. Quote, Matt Ferdisha from the EAP. I don't think I'm going to be invited back there anytime soon. Okay? But is that likely to change? No. But how do we adapt to it? I mean, we just do. All right, let me give another secret out. Remember I said relieving stress and change, one of the best things you can do is have information? You know what the second one is, and you're going to have a hard time believing this? Working absolutely as hard as you can every day. And I mean that very seriously. Working as hard as you can every day to accomplish whatever you put in front of you, whatever someone else puts in front of you as well. You leave with a huge sense of accomplishment, right? And knowing that you put your best foot forward and that people saw value in that. That is the best thing you can absolutely do, especially when we're doing more with less, okay? And when it becomes to a point where it's just overwhelming, are there resources available to help you with that? You're nodding yes. What are they?
Management.
Someone just said it. Right, and we are. We're there all the time. What else? You said it.
Management.
You're a manager. I mean, they're not going to change something if people are getting work done, right? You got to let them know, look, you know, we need to take a second look at this. Can we just maybe try this? You're the ones who actually do the work, right? So make sure that you go to the person who's approachable and capable of assisting you in that change, okay? So we kind of went all through a lot of this stuff already, okay? And again, they're hopefully, for the most part, seen as positive and again, short term. Okay. We have to have an understanding of what our needs are personally and professionally, what are your personal and professional goals, what strengths are out there, and what challenges are need to overcome them. Okay? Don't notice I said not what our strengths and weaknesses are. Weakness is a negative attribute. Is there a challenge coming your way? Yeah, there absolutely is. What it is that you need to overcome that, okay? And it actually is emotional and cognitive, okay? And it impacts how effectively you're going to be able to deal with this. So like I said, have a personal mission statement, have a personal value statement, and professional ones as well. They give you identifiable goals that you can take a look at daily and see, what do I need to do to accomplish today's tasks? What do I need to do to adapt to the changes that are occurring here in the not too distant future? How do I get past my resistance? Wrong button. Okay. Yeah, this is a little cheesy, but it is true. Pre-planning. None of this is coming as a surprise to anybody. You have time to plan. Right? All right, let me go through this because we've already talked about it a little bit. We go through a first stage of loss. People view this as generally as a point of being positive or negative. We're putting an emotion to something that really doesn't need there. But it is the first thing that we experience. Okay? It takes time to resolve it, and the sense of loss depends on the level of change or how that change immediately impacts you or your department or you personally or professionally. Okay? The second stage, we all know this, right? This is kind of like the Kubler-Ross thing regarding death, but with a little bit of a change to it. This is when we try to do an end-around change. We try to backdoor stuff and move around it, right? This is where the people who are dragging people around in a dirty little wake are really stuck, right? And again, it takes time for everybody. Someone may be able to adapt to this in a week. For others, it might take a month. The whole point is we have to get through it in a timely fashion. Now, this is where we really come into the stress, anxiety, and fear. And what did I already mention is the greatest stress reliever you have? Information. It really is. Go to people who have the information and know that it's correct. All right? And again, you may not like what you hear, but at least you have the information to make those decisions, okay? And that's when we really start to experience the sense of loss. And a lot of people often get stuck in this stage, okay? And again, not putting a fine point on it, but we've all experienced the death of somebody, correct? Sometimes, depending on who it is, it's easier to get past than others. Do we know people who are stuck at a certain stage, at this stage, resulting from the death of a family member or a close friend or something like that? They just can't move past it. How are they functioning? Not well. Personally, professionally, NEAly, right? That's why sometimes you need to reach out for support to get past where you're stuck. Because if you only hang out at this part, that's not going to benefit you in a personal or professional way. Okay? Now, all these things, because a lot of people say, well, why are people resistant to change? I really enjoy it. Well, there are economic factors, right? Is any of it convenient? No, it really isn't. In fact, it was very inconvenient for me coming here today. I didn't know Grove Road was closed. Okay? I always give myself 15 minutes to get lost or be late. I hate being late. Do you know how fast I was flying over Boot Road to get over 100 and down here? It was very inconvenient for me, but I adapted to it and just, risked getting a ticket to get here. All right? There's obviously uncertainty. That's where information comes from. A lot of people perceive it as a threat to his status. That may or may not be true. Really take a look and utilize your friends to see if the way you're thinking about things is rational and realistic. Okay? All right. Kind of already talked about this already. The last one is hard, okay? And again, I'll be pretty blunt about it. You guys have a new leader in the organization who has a very different mission and vision for this hospital, and likely you guys haven't had a lot of say in that, correct? Okay, but other people in your department representing you likely have. May not be the best, may not be the way you'd want to handle it, but again, what happens when we get to here is it failing to those affected by change to have a say in the planning. If you have ideas, I can guarantee the hospital is interested in what those are. And again, this isn't just in relation to the changes that are occurring now. This is ongoing departmentally, right? A lot of the time we might put in a new way of entering information for a patient in terms of case management. You think to yourself, why are we doing it this way? It's not the way we've done it. The way we did it before was fine. Right? That never occurs here. That's not the way we did it 20 years ago. Right? It's not the Westchester County way. Okay? So we have to adapt to it. But again, you have a lot of information that's valuable and people do want to hear it. Okay? Kind of did it. A lot of the creating excessive pressure you put on yourself. Sometimes. Now a lot of the pressure is coming down externally and internally from on high, but realize, is this going to be long term? Likely not, right? So it's not long term, we're going to get past it. Right? This is stuff I've kind of already reviewed. I do want to get to one part real quick. Did it? Right? This is what we do with the people whom you report to. Hopefully this is what they're doing with you and doing it among your peers as well. And honestly, if you want to have a lose your mind session, anybody know what a lose your mind session is? I recommend this all the time. Do you know people who just have, again, we mentioned, who are chronically negative all the time or chronically complaining? Okay, If you feel that you're this way, or even make this recommendation to a friend or a spouse, like I do to my wife occasionally, when she like perseveratively looks at my kids' grades every day, that's not a helpful thing. Okay? So I took away her internet privileges. She's now only allowed to look once a week, which I still think is too much. But, and I've done this for myself personally, if you really have a tendency to like lose your mind over worry and anxiety and stuff like that, give yourself 10 minutes a day to completely lose your mind over it. No, I'm serious. This works. Give yourself permission. And at the end of that 10 minutes, you're putting that on a back shelf and you're not going to worry or consider it. And all this does is take a couple days of practice and you'd be amazed at how well that works. Okay? You really would. A lose your mind session, 10 minutes, then put it away for the rest of the day. All right, because I want to get to... Right. We talked about the third stage. We're starting to get into a more positive way of viewing it. We're starting to adapt and change. Okay, the sense of loss is diminishing. Okay? Now we take a look at what we can and can't control. This is the point I absolutely want to get to. How many people have young children under 10? Okay, how old?
Oh, 7.
7 and 9. Can you control who they hang out with? Yes, you can. Can you control what they wear? Can you control what they buy? Can you control what they eat? You can try though, right? Okay. Who has kids who are 16? Okay, you're out. Who else has like kids? Who has teens? No one has teens? How old?
18.
18. Can you control who he hangs with? She, excuse me.
To a degree.
To a degree, exactly. Control what they eat.
To a degree.
Control what they spend.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry. Well, how do we go from to a degree to absolutely? Okay. How many people have older adults above 25? How old? How old?
37 and 43.
37 and 43. Control who they hang with. Control the money they spend. How they dress. What they do. No control over it at all. All you have is the values and mission that you try to accomplish and hope that they walk away with 50 to 90% of that. My point being, there are things, folks, that you already know that are very much in your control, and there are things that are not. Those that you have control over, it's great. How do you manage that? How do you work that to your advantage? And things that are out of your control, you don't just whip up your hands and say, well, it's out of my control, I can't do anything about it. No, not necessarily. You can contribute to that change. If your kids came to you and said, look, I'm having a little bit of difficulty regarding this, would you help them out? Right, it's not just because you don't have control over it, there aren't answers or incentives or opportunities. So really take a look at, and I mean this more personally even than professionally, what's in your control and what is truly out of your control. And that stuff that's out of your control, that's the kind of thing you let lose your mind over 10 minutes and then move on. And that's the third and absolute thing I want you to walk out of here thinking about. There are definitely things that are in your control and things that are not. All right? Now, the way we perceive change really depends on how we're going to respond to it and how we're going to deal with it. So realizing those things that are in and without your control, even those things that are not in your control, you can still contribute in a very positive way to. And I'm a visual learner, as is every one of you. If you're an adult over 21, your brains are developed, and no, I'm serious, we develop as a visual learners, okay? So really take a look at it and fill these categories, all right? Is it important to you? Most things are, but really dependent. How important is it? Put it on a scale of 1 to 10. Do you have control over it? Great. And that's something you can definitely have an effect on. Is it not important, but you have control? That's a side burner, but likely one of your responsibilities that you have to get done. And again, I'm making this up as I go along, but everybody's following where I'm at with this. Personally, professionally, think about it. It is important, and you can't control, okay, but how can you contribute to it in a positive way? And if it's not important, and you don't have control of it, over it, what should you do? No, I'm serious. Throw it out, okay? Maybe review it in a quarter from now. It may not be important right now. And there are timelines to this. But I am very much a visual learner, and if you just let your mind go for about 10 minutes and start filling this stuff in, you'd be amazed visually at what you look at and how clarifying that is for you in identifying what you have control over and what's important, what you can change, what you can't, and still contribute to. All right. Fifth stage is we started talking about what we need to get people to, and again, can you be instrumental in helping your coworkers get there? Everybody go like this. It's an expectation. No, I'm not kidding. It's an expectation. And it should be. We are a community. There's a camaraderie here. People are friends. We do want to see this succeed, correct? Everybody go like this.
Yes.
Okay? No, we really do. So, if you're starting to feel normal and feeling more comfortable and you're seeing people struggle in relation to that, be empathetic. What was it that helped you? Who's a great advice giver in the room? Yeah, everybody likes advice, don't they? Before you make a recommendation or give everybody advice, just because it worked for you, realize it may not work for them. But if they ask you what worked, that they're asking for your opinion and some assistance. Okay? Think about it. What's my motivation in giving this person information? What's the motivation behind it? Is it to make them afraid and lose their mind, make them feel bad because they're lagging behind? Go ahead.
Make them feel comfortable.
Get them to
Yeah.
feel comfortable. Maybe even not
Less anxiety.
normal,
Yeah.
but starting to get more comfortable. When you start feeling more comfortable with things, then you go back to a normal way of thinking, feeling, decision making, etc. Okay? All right. The one thing I want to point out on this, have you ever had a manager or a supervisor come to you and say that we're implementing a change and say, you know what, I don't really agree with it, but Matt's the one who's making me do it? No, really, have you ever heard that one? I can't stand that. Take responsibility for it, and for yourself as well, okay? I'm going to adapt to this, I'm going to rock and roll, I'm going to make this happen. No one's making me do it, I am making the conscious, willful choice to move forward with this. And again, we all agreed, it is positive in the long run. The changes that are occurring here are going to have a very, very positive effect. And we also already discussed how thinking affects the way that we manage the change. Okay? All right. We talked about this already. A lot of people gave other, we have spiritual, we have exercise. And again, we've always said, and I know my parents said it and said it to you as well, and I'm sure my mom called each and every one of you and told you this too. 'Cause she was Irish and felt the need to, okay? The way you think affects the way you feel. It is. It really is, okay? You can adapt to these if you make the conscious, willful choice too. Then mind, body kind of work together, okay? But you have to maintain an optimistic attitude. Are we going to be able to do that 100% of the time? Absolutely not. Okay, so realize we're going to have step backs. That's okay. But how long are we going to allow that to affect us? All right? And again, considering change is normal. I already mentioned that making the maximum effort, personally and professionally, is the greatest thing you can do to make yourself feel emotionally better and in more control. Okay? All right. One thing I want to point out on here, and I am going to finish on time, which is great. We all agree that we're all visual learners. Did you ever have a problem on your mind, you're really not even sure of what that is, but you know you haven't done something or something's really nagging you, you feel really down in the dumps about something, but you can't put your finger on it? Or am I the only one?
No.
Okay, do you want the greatest gift you're going to have right now? You ready? You're all akimbo and can't wait for this, aren't you? Okay. Take out a piece of paper. I am not kidding. Okay? Draw a line down the middle of it. For 3 minutes, think about everything that's on your mind and just let your mind go nuts and write down every single word, no matter how silly, no matter how crazy it is. Write down every single word that comes into your mind and list them. Don't judge it, just write. For 2 to 3 minutes. Do you know what you have at the end of that? What's going on in your brain that you can't identify? Because what you're going to see, and you're going to be amazed, you're like, man, wow, that worked. You're going to start to see patterns in words that are coming up. And it might be, okay, finances, college, kids. You might have Dave, who's 17 and soon to be going to college. You didn't know that that was really in the back of your head, getting you kind of, uptight and anxious about it. But I'm not kidding you. This works. Okay? Determine what you have control over, what you don't, but at least you've identified what's going on in your mind at that time, right, that's causing you stress and anxiety. I promise you this absolutely works. List out the pros and cons afterward. Is this something I have control over? Is this something I don't have control over? Okay? Access motivation, get information, communicate with one another appropriately. And for that I mean, if you're having like a really hard time dealing with a day, understand that and realize that your friends and your coworkers can help you with that. But if they're avoiding you, then you might be coming on a little bit too strong. And have the courage to tell another employee, look, I can't hang with you today. You know what I mean? No, I'm not kidding. Could you say that to another employee? Matt, you're just way too negative today. I mean, the stuff coming out of your mouth is so vitriolic. When you're done, I'll hang, but I can't hang with you today. Could you say that? How would you say it in a different way?
I just would avoid you.
You would avoid me. When I come up to you, your first name?
Denise.
Denise, what's up? I mean, we usually have lunch
that's
every
fine.
day.
Good.
Oh, you're fine?
Yeah.
Well, why are you avoiding me?
Just have things on my mind.
Okay.
Mhm.
You couldn't look at me and say it's you, dude. Might be what I need to hear. Again, my style's a little bit different than yours. Okay, we kind of already talked that. Take personal responsibility for the changes that are occurring. Okay? And you will adapt. It definitely is going to happen. It's either going to work for you or it's not. All right. Did it. Did it. Did it. Cool. All right. Talked about that. Talked about that. Don't need to talk about that, right? Let me just be real clear since I have 2 minutes. Let me be very, very blunt and honest. This works and works really well. Okay? Because it's designed to. Right? Affects the central nervous system. We're a biochemical being, the whole bit. I'm not kidding you. Who's ever had like a couple glasses of wine or a scotch to help relax and fall asleep besides me? Right? 1 works. 2 works better. 3, I'm out like a light. What we're really doing is kind of masking the issues that we have, and now we're starting to develop a second problem. When changes occur, and when the economic environment is what it is, I want to be very honest, drug and alcohol use has a tendency to increase. So let's be cognitively aware of that for ourselves and our coworkers as well. I'm not going to go off on that for too long, but I just want to make sure that you guys are aware of that. Okay? The Employee Assistance Program, as you guys well know, is there for you 24 hours a day. Okay? Not bad, right on time. Was that generally what you thought, or anybody have any questions or concerns? Are we okay with what happened? Anything greater for the good of the group?